G'day everyone and welcome back to the show. I'm Coach Michelle J. Raymond and I am joined by the one, the only, Justin Moore. Welcome to the show.
What's up, Michelle? Thrilled to be here.
Look, I have to confess to you straight up. I know that you wanted to be on podcast to promote a certain little project that you're working on, but I selfishly have a vested interest in this one because we're going to be talking about brand partnerships, and I really wanted to learn about it, and I've heard you speak and gone through stacks of your content that you've helped me with. And so I figured, why not get you on the show? I'm going to learn, my listeners are going to learn, and then we're going to talk about your project at the end that's going to help us even more. Is that a fair trade?
Love it. Let's go.
All right. So there are probably lots of listeners on here right now. If I look at LinkedIn, brand partnerships is something that just started to pop up towards the end of this year. And I know it's huge on other platforms like Instagram, probably TikTok and things like that. But can we do a quick brand partnerships 101 for those people that maybe aren't familiar? What are they and why should we be paying attention as we go into 2025?
All right. Brand Partnerships 101. I ran an influencer marketing agency for about 7 years. I've done thousands of campaigns, and essentially what they are is brand XYZ or company XYZ over here has some sort of product or initiative or feature or something that they want to spread the word about. And instead of running Facebook ads or Instagram ads or YouTube ads or something like that, or putting ads on a billboard or a bus bench or in the Penny Saver magazine or something, they're saying, hey, we want to reach a very specific type of consumer. And we think that these influential people over here, usually on the internet, they have this really large audience. What if instead we went and gave the marketing budget to them and they could talk about it and give us kind of an endorsement or a testimonial talking about this campaign or this initiative or things like that, and with the hopes that their following will take some sort of action. And so this is what's called influencer marketing, is the parlance. But this is, as you said, like it's a pretty common thing in B2C consumer marketing, where you think of the TikToker or the YouTuber doing a sponsored post or something like that. But increasingly, as you mentioned, you're seeing more kind of B2B focused people who have built up audiences on platforms like LinkedIn do partnerships there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And even LinkedIn themselves released a feature where you can flag on your post that it is a brand partnership. But just the conversations that are going on the platform now and the campaigns that I'm starting to see where people are going, you know what? No one really trusts brands and their ads anymore, but we trust those people in our audience that have built up community, built up thought leadership, are known for particular topics. We're going to go with them instead. So for me, it's fascinating. As a creator, if I put on my creator shoes, I'm super excited about this because I've been busting my butt building these audiences for quite a while. And Justin, you'll probably laugh at this, but I had it in my mind, and we'll go into this a little bit later, but I had it in my mind that the only people that could make money off this kind of thing had massive big followings. Like you had to have hundreds of thousands and be what most people would call an influencer. And then I had the wonderful Joe Polizzi on my podcast. Oh, it's probably about 6 months ago now. We got talking and he was talking about content entrepreneurs, and he kind of went, you know, Michelle, you've got this podcast. There's people out there who would probably love to sponsor it. And you should just go and ask brands that you love. And so I did, and shout out to Metrical who came on board. But it just wasn't something that I ever thought was possible for me. So I want to change that conversation for people who might be listening, who think, no, that's not for me. I'm not a big enough creator, or I don't look a certain way, or maybe I have to talk or be super creative. I want to dispel some of these myths as we go along. But with any collaboration, choosing the right partner is gotta be crucial. So given you've done so many of these partnerships in the past and still do them, as a creator, what should I look for in a potential brand partner so this thing doesn't come unstuck?
I'm going to give you a twofer here, okay? I'm going to dispel the myths that you talked about earlier about needing a huge following to collaborate with brands, and talk about what you should look for in a perfect brand partnership. So let me tell you a story about one of my coaching clients. Her name is Dr. Alex, and she has built up a fairly significant following on LinkedIn. Also has a podcast, and her business is called Digital Pathology Place. So she is a physician veterinarian, and she totally nerds out over this topic of digital pathology, right? And she has built up this audience. It's not hundreds of thousands, it's thousands or tens of thousands, but she has all these people, the ear of all of these people who are really interested in this very specific topic. And guess what? All of the medical device companies, the instrumentation companies who are out there, pharmaceutical companies who are out there trying to figure out how do we get in touch with these physicians or the operators, the techs at these clinics or these hospitals and things like that. How do we market to them? It's a tall task, actually. And so going out and partnering with someone like Dr. Alex, where, yeah, she may not be, dancing on TikTok, but she, is being flown out by these companies to the conferences and ask, hey, can you tell all these people about our webinar that we're doing? Or, hey, can you come and do a tour of our facility? Or all these really interesting sponsorships that she never thought were ever going to be part of her business. Because again, she's practicing, right? She has like a practice, right? And I just love sharing this example. And I have countless examples like this, where it's people who have built up an audience, built up an expertise around a very hyper specific kind of niche or industry or content vertical, where sponsorships has become a really meaningful part of their revenue stream, pretty surprisingly. And so for someone like Dr. Alex, to your question of like, how do you think about these perfect, what's a good criteria? I think a big mistake that people make is they just sit and think, what are the brands that I authentically love and use? And of course that's fine, right? But to be honest, that's kind of table stakes, right? Because a lot of these brands, a lot of these companies, this is what they're hearing all day long. They're inundated, their inbox or their pressed email is like, hey, I love your software, your SaaS. I've been using it for 3 years. Collaborate with me. This is what pretty much everyone is saying. And so a better approach is learning more about the psychographics of your audience, doing surveys and saying, hey, what's keeping you up at night? What problems are you having? Like, I would love to learn more about you. What are the challenges, right? What brands and tools and products are you using and loving right now? When you get that data back, that's a way different story, because now you realize, wow, I just did this sample of my audience, and it seems 40% of them, these small business owners, they're having issues with HR, with employee issues, or they're having issues with bookkeeping, or they're having issues with XYZ that may be somewhat unrelated to my current content vertical. But you know what? I should probably go out there and pitch a bookkeeping software and forge a partnership with them. And hey, I could actually think of a pretty creative angle to do this partnership. And so I think this is the number one thing I would recommend, is learn more about your audience, because you have a richer texture that you can then come to the brand. Instead of saying, hey, I love you, please pay me, you're saying, hey, here's a bunch of people in my audience who want to hear about your brand.
I'm picturing these creators as, please, sir, can I have some more?
Yeah, exactly.
And the brands are going, right? You want more? Yeah, that's what I'm picturing in my mind. So what I'm hearing from that, good news is we don't need to be able to dance like on TikTok. So we can scrub that one off.
Phew. I'm a pretty good dancer.
All right, nice. Yeah. My skill at this point in time is I eat chocolate biscuits, or cookies, as you would say in the US. So every Friday I have a Tim Tam, which is a chocolate biscuit here, and I do a Tim Tam tip related back to marketing. So I'm working on these guys. I think a brand partnership is due. I'm eating my body weight in these things to promote marketing. So I think it's only fair. But I get concerned. Do you draw the line at, does the brand have to align with your values, or, can we sell our souls for this? Like, what works best in this kind of environment?
I'm never suggesting that you should sell your soul, but what I am suggesting is that it's not about you. This is the expectation that I have always set with my audience, was that I am an unbiased advocate for you. And so I'm going to go out there and I'm going to test a bunch of different tools, and I'm just going to tell you about them. And different tools are going to serve different purposes. And my job is to serve you. I learned a lot actually from my wife. My wife started her first YouTube channel in 2009, actually. So way back in the day. And her YouTube channel was all around beauty and skincare and cosmetics and things like this. And the expectation she always set with her audience was like, look, I know you're not going to go out there and buy these 15 moisturizers, but I'm a product junkie. So I'm going to do that. And I'm going to tell you my honest opinion about all these different things. And so for her to do partnerships with various different brands was always very comfortable for her, because that was the expectation she had set with her audience. And so I think a similar approach could be had for anyone here who has built up kind of this intimate connection with their audience, is this expectation that hey, I'm going to tell you about a bunch of different tools, and here's why they're better for different pockets of consumers, or based on your different use cases or whatever. But of course, you should never take money just because it's money, right? You do have to feel comfortable associating with the values and the ethos of the brand.
I love that you use the words pretty much that I speak all the time, which is in service of your audience. I don't think you can ever go wrong if you've built an audience that trusts you and you always maintain that viewpoint that everything that I'm doing, whether it's creating content, having these partnerships, is in service of that audience. So I really love that because I can see how people would cut off opportunities by going, I don't know that, or it's got to be a perfect alignment, or I haven't used that product for 25 years. And then we'd chop off the opportunities before I think we even got out of the gate, which is something I think I've probably been guilty of in the past, which I see this as a big opportunity in 2025, which is why I was so excited that our paths crossed. Shout out to Jay and his wonderful podcast as well.
Can we put a bookend real quickly on this point? Because I think it's very important. I think there's going to be a lot of people listening to this who may have a podcast, may have a YouTube channel, may have some social media presence, but the primary reason that they have it is for lead generation for their own business. And I hear you, I see you, and you may be skeptical still. You're thinking, I'm not going to do sponsorships. Like, why talk about a brand or another person's product when I could talk about my own coaching or my own services, my agency, and this type of thing, right? And so I hear you. I've had lots of conversations with folks like you, and I want to pull you a little bit closer to my edge of the universe here by saying something very simple, which is going back to this whole audience first, customer first mindset. I think a lot of this comes from a scarcity mindset view where it's like, hey, if I talk about someone else's stuff, they're not going to have money to buy my thing, right? So why would I do that? When in reality, there are lots of products and even other people in the industry who are selling things that you're never going to sell. But in reality, going back to this psychographic research, your audience is complex. Your customers are complex. They have lots of different problems and lots of different needs. And you're not going to be able to solve all those problems with your services, your products, and things like that. And so it is your job to go out there and fill those gaps with whether it's sponsors products, whether it's other coaches, other people in the industry who have services that could serve them well, and introduce them. Whether it's a sponsor, whether it's an alliance. And what do you think is going to happen when your customer's life and business is made better by this other person's thing, this other sponsor's thing? They're going to trust you and love you even more so that the next time they're thinking, hey, I need some support. You know what? I'm going to hire Michelle because she was the one who introduced me to this other sponsor's product. And now my business is humming. So I really need everyone to hear this piece of it because sponsorships are not just about lining your pockets. It's about serving your audience.
And if you think about it, most people running their business in service of that audience are probably giving away this kind of stuff every day in conversations for free. Hey, I use StreamYard to record this podcast is a conversation that I have regularly. Okay, how can we shift that around and, start making money from that? Because I did the research. I have tried all of the different things. So there's nothing wrong as well with making money from the amount of effort that goes into finding out a lot of these answers because you are saving people so much time. But I'm going to ask you another question. I'm asking for a friend, Justin. We'll call this friend Michelle, right? And Michelle is a creator on LinkedIn. And she has a reasonable following of 20,000, just over 20,000 followers. And, she's got a podcast, couple of books, YouTube channel, all this kind of stuff. But Michelle's thinking about doing brand partnerships in 2025. And if you were to advise Michelle, what makes a creator attractive to brands beyond just the follower count? What else could Michelle do to make herself stand out in amongst the crowd?
A couple different directions that we can go with this. And if you're game, I would love to do like a kind of real-time case study to actually think of, okay, what does this look like? Michelle's business, we go out and we pitch one of your dream brands. So I'm going to hold your feet to the fire and we're going to do this. Okay.
Okay.
But the first thing is just like, how do you be more attractive? And again, I ran this agency for many years and I've been on the receiving end of a lot of interactions with partners and creators over the years. And it's just the basics, honestly. It's the professionalism. It's being responsive. It's being a nice person. It's not being a nightmare to work with. If I come back as the agency and I say, hey, got the feedback from the brand, is it possible for you to do a quick 5-second voiceover fix? You mispronounced the name of the product instead of going, no, you're violating my creative genius and freedom. There's no way I'm doing that. Or it's going to be $5,000 extra money. you laugh, but this is the experience that we would have constantly doing these partnerships with creators who just didn't really see the longer term perspective. They just looked at it as this kind of one-off transaction and not, hey, maybe my goal here shouldn't be maximizing revenue in the short run. It should be maximizing the relationship and getting repeat business from this agent. And so maybe it's not spelled out in the agreement. Yeah, we got 2 rounds of feedback or revisions on the asset, and they're asking for a third, but it's going to take me like literally 30 seconds to finish. Yeah, I'll go ahead and do it. Right. And so it's this small game, I call it, right? It's like, this is what a lot of what I talk about in my book, Sponsor Magnet, is like understanding that this is a business transaction and there may be high stakes for the brand. They may have never done brand partnerships before and they went out on a limb for you and they're paying you a couple grand. May not seem significant to you, but to them, it's like a big initiative for them, right? And so understanding the gravity oftentimes of what's going on internally, the dynamics for the brand is a really important part of this. And so there's so many different things related to this professionalism thing that I just can't be overstated. I would say B2B marketers have it a bit easier because maybe you do have a bit more experience in a corporate setting, but a lot of traditional creators, traditional influencers don't. And so I think that's what a lot of people have going for them. Okay, so now, how can we make Michelle more attractive? Because that's what I really want to know. Let's do a real-time example here. So if you had to think of a dream partner, someone who you would love to forge a collaboration with, rattle off a few that come to mind that would be like, yeah, boom, let's go.
Yeah, so Dreamdata happens to be one of the companies that I would love to work with because they have a product that I think will help the marketing managers that I work with. So that's one of them. There's obviously a lot of tech companies that have products like that I use that my clients would get benefit out of using as well. It's anyone that's related to their target audience is marketing managers in a B2B space. Why? Because I'm having those conversations daily with the people I'm working with already, teaching them about LinkedIn. But it's like, what are the peripheral things that go around in a marketing manager's life that are beyond LinkedIn that I could help them with?
Love it. Okay, so I'm going to so kindly ask you to pull up my screen. I just shared my screen here. And we're going to do some real-time research here. You excited for this? So
Absolutely.
Dreamdata, this is the company you're talking about, right?
It is.
Shout out to Dreamdata, who's going to be sponsoring Michelle very shortly. So the couple things that I want to do, this is the exercise that I take people through in doing this research. So I'm going to go to their website. I opened up their LinkedIn. I opened up their Facebook page. I opened up their YouTube channel. I just scrolled to the bottom to take a look at some of their socials. So the first thing that I want to do is understand what is the most important thing that it seems like they're promoting right now. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down. This is above the scroll or kind of on the main splash page of their site. Okay, so they've got case studies on here. They've just got a bunch of solution stuff. Not really a ton of stuff. Okay, they got a lead magnet here, 10 B2B benchmarks you must know. So this is their primary lead magnet that they're talking about above the scroll. So that's good to know. I'm going to go to their LinkedIn. I want to see what they're posting about right now. Okay, 12 hours ago, we're live on Wednesday with Tim. He's the CEO. Okay, so they do a live show every Wednesday. This is good data. So we're just starting to check off all this data. Yeah. Okay.
For those people who aren't familiar with what Dreamdata do, they are a marketing attribution software. So when you're trying to figure out for all of your efforts going into sales and marketing, how do you trace where to attribute that back to? Dreamdata helps with that. So it's about pulling data from all kinds of different sites, putting it in one place so you know where to double down on and where you need to maybe shift your money away from, or, you know, what's working and what's not. So is it sales or marketing that really, you know, own the sale at the end of the day? So that's some of the questions that they answer for people who may not be familiar with it.
Okay, I've got 2 pitches for you. Ready?
Always. For my friend Michelle, of course.
For your friend Michelle, yes. You could pass this information along to. So first, let me talk about the structure of the pitch that I share in the book. It's called the rope pitching method, ROPE. So R means that your pitch has to be relevant to a campaign that they're either currently running, a campaign or initiative that they're either currently running or have run in the past. O stands for organic, meaning that you can tie your pitch back to organic work that you've already published that illustrates that your audience has an affinity for their product, okay? P stands for proof, so you can show how you've helped other brands achieve results. And E stands for easy to execute, when they say, hey, yeah, this sounds interesting. What did you have in mind? And so the R in the rope method for Dreamdata is probably, hey, I see that you're doing this live show every Wednesday and you're talking about XYZ topic. I was curious, do you need some assistance with anyone actually hosting that show for you? There's some other topics. You could actually increase the cadence of your show from once a week to twice a week. And I will be the host for that second episode every week. And perhaps it's a series all around XYZ. So that's the relevance. We're inferring that this might be something they're excited about, but we've done the research. We know that they do this show on LinkedIn, and that's something that's important to you. So that's pitch number one. Pitch number two is I went to their YouTube channel and saw that all they're doing on their channel is posting their full length podcast episodes, probably same ones that they're posting on LinkedIn, and then short clips of those podcasts. But they basically have very few tutorials or demos of the software itself. So you could say, hey, I'm going to do the research. Here are the top 10 long tail keywords that I think you should be ranking for on YouTube, which is the second largest search engine in the world. It's these how to do revenue attribution on XYZ, blah, blah, blah. They're getting 300, 500 searches a month or whatever. You should own those with content that lives on your YouTube channel. And guess what? I will make those videos for you. Give me a demo account, or I have an account. Here's what I'm suggesting that we do. So that's the R, right? The relevancy. Those are two ideas, right? The O is you say, hey, I also talk about revenue attribution a lot on my podcast, and then you link them a specific episode. And if you don't have a specific episode talking about revenue attribution, you make one before you pitch them. You do it strategically, okay? Then the P in the proof in the rope method is, hey, here's how I've helped StreamYard achieve results, whatever. Some other brand that your current sponsor achieve results. And then the E is, this is exactly what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to make you 5 long form YouTube videos. I'll give you the rights to repurpose those on your YouTube channel. I can turn the first one around within 10 days. Are you free on Thursday at 10 a.m. to talk about this?
Nice.
That's the pitch. It's not, hi, I'm Michelle. I have 20,000 LinkedIn followers. Here's my audience demographics. I love your Dreamdata. I've been using it for 3 years. They don't care. They just deleted your email.
And funny enough, I did start a conversation like this with the guys at Dreamdata a little while back, and they were keen to explore. And then I went, oh, I don't know. They were like, if it makes sense. I've met them in Denmark. There's a lot of relationship there. They know who I am. And then it got to what are you thinking? What do you want to do? And then I went, I don't know. Oh, sorry, Michelle, my friend did. I kind of got half in there and then went, oh, hang on. I'm going to take this advice back to my friend Michelle and let her know if you come to them with a solution and an offer, you make life easy for them. That's what I'm missing out of my repertoire right now. Look, there's so much in there, and I want to talk about that for my friend Michelle all day, but I know we've got a couple of other things that I want to get to. So thank you for that. And I will be sure to pass on that message to Michelle and make sure she listens to this podcast and get some great advice about that system. So let's say that there is someone called Michelle who gets past that, makes it easy. And we're at that negotiating piece, that structuring piece. And we're not going to go into it in big details here, but I often wonder, is this just pay for number of impressions, or can we get more creative with this as well? Because I think, because I am completely new to this and you're an expert that's at the other end, and this is why I'm loving this conversation so much, my mind just goes straight to, if I can't do a post that gets 1 billion impressions, they're not going to want to pay me. It's going to be a flop. And then my imposter syndrome, I think, kicks in pretty hard at that point, which is why I've cut a lot of these things off. And so from that perspective, I wanted to kind of figure out, are there ways that we could creatively do this that don't involve, hey, if I get this many impressions, you pay me this much? Because that to me feels awful, and probably why most people avoid it, I would think.
This is another big myth, which is that the only thing brands care about is either number of reach, following, download numbers, impressions, or on the other scale is sales, right? Like how many sales are you going to generate? How many leads did you generate from this partnership? So the most important thing to understand is something that I call the ARC framework, which is the 3 campaign goals that pretty much every brand has when they want to run a campaign. So the A stands for awareness. They were available in the UK. Now they're available in the US, and they want to spread the word about it. They got this big feature benefit they want people to know about, or a seasonal campaign. R stands for repurposing, similar to that example that we were just sharing with Dreamdata, where the primary thrust of the campaign is for you to generate content that they can use in other ways on their YouTube channel, on their website, for paid advertising, and so on. And the C in the ARC framework is conversion. Yeah, this is where they want something like sales or something attributable and measurable and things like that. And so the reason that it's so important that you are asking the brand, what is your objective, is because your pricing should change. The amount of money that you should be asking for. Let me explain by a quick example. So let's talk about, we were just talking about revenue attribution. So this is a perfect example. So let's assume that Dreamdata, you approach them and they say, hey, let's collaborate. And they say, hey, conversions, leads, that's what we care about. In their mind, you're the head of growth or the partnerships manager, whatever there is probably thinking somewhere along the lines of, okay, we hire Michelle for this. Her podcasts get an average of 10,000 downloads per episode. I don't know what it is. I'm just making it up for easy math. 10,000 downloads. Okay, we're assuming, based on other partnerships that we've done before, about 10% of the people who listen to this are going to click the link in the show notes. That's 1,000 people. Of those 1,000 people, we're assuming that 250 people will sign up for a free trial of Dreamdata. Of the 250 people, 50 of those people, let's say 20%, are going to sign up for a paid engagement, right? And we know that our software costs $10 a month, and the average lifetime value of each customer is 10 months. So that's an LTV, a lifetime value of $100. So that's 50 times 100. $5,000. That's the max that we're going to pay Michelle. But in reality, that's the break-even point. They don't want to just break even. That's the whole reason they're doing influencer marketing. And so they want to, in reality, play a fraction of that, half, third, fourth, I don't know, it depends on their risk tolerance. And so this is why for brands that have a conversion-focused goal, it's so difficult to negotiate with them sometimes. Contrast that with an awareness-focused campaign. Your friends at Dreamdata come to you and say, Michelle, we don't really care about the leads. We don't care about the sales. What we really care about is this big AI feature that we're launching in Q1 or Q2. We just want to spread the word about that. Your negotiating leverage skyrockets in scenarios like that. So the number one piece of advice is ask them, what does success look like to you?
And again, we're just back to that in service of your audience. And in this case, in service of the brand partnership. Like, what can you offer that progresses them? And again, it's flipping it around, not just how can I get them to pay me more money? Like which again feels awful, and it's not something that I'll ever be driven to do. But there is, I think when you've got that equal value, you've got something they want that you can shortcut however long it would take them to build their own audiences, or, I've got a completely different audience to what they've built. And coming at it from a different perspective, I'm just looking at it just going, if I shift my mindset around to what can I do that would help them achieve their goal, and of course they're going to want to throw money at me because I've got them closer when they couldn't do it themselves with their own internal resources. So of course it becomes so much easier. And I make it, again, back to your framework, I'm going to make it easy for them. They don't have to think because I've already done my research. And so I'm just like blown away, just going, of course we're going to work with Michelle. Let's do more of that. There's probably a lot of listeners going, duh, Michelle, this is all obvious. I'll give you the handy tip. Try and do it yourself. Try and put yourself out there and figure out what things go on in your mind that cut these opportunities off. Because I can speak from my own personal experience that I know that as much as I think I'm good at certain things, when you start something new, your brain goes into, no, we've got to protect you, Michelle. We don't want you to put yourself out there because what if they say no? Which the chances are you will get rejected or what you propose will get rejected. It's not personal. And so for me, just listening to all of this, I appreciate I've got so much more to learn, but at the same time, I think a lot of it is about how I approach this and having that right mindset to then progress it. And then, of course, they would love to be working with me. Of course they would. It's really, for me, opened up this whole, Michelle, back yourself and be in service of other people is the message that I've got through this. I've said so many times throughout this that I could talk about this all day. And I think I could because I'm genuinely excited by the possibilities. But I also recognize that we've just scratched the surface here. So you have been working hard on a project that is going to help people like me who want to dig into this, get into the details, and really help me take those next steps. Tell us about your new book that's being launched, Sponsor Magnet.
It's very kind of you to say, and if that was the result of this conversation for you, is just this feeling, this mindset shift around like, no, this is actually something that I can do. That makes me so happy and fulfilled. And you want to know the other funny thing about that is that this is what brands have budgets for. They have budgets for their own initiatives. So for my book Sponsor Magnet, honestly, this is going to sound cheesy, but I'm in this kind of like existential phase of my life where I'm looking at kind of the next chapter of what I want to do. What is the duty that I feel to educate the next generation of creators? And I just felt so pulled to this idea of writing a book and basically distilling everything that I know about brand partnerships into this tidy little format right here. And so if that sounds like something that is exciting, intriguing to you, you want to go down this world of brand partnerships for your own business, you can just go to sponsormagnet.com.
Just as we wrap up the show, because I think that what you do genuinely is amazing and will help people shift where they're at. We've been down the practical, but I think it's genuinely, for me, seeing that this is possible. And it's possible when you've got the right expert in your corner who has that experience and will get us through. So yeah, congrats on Sponsor Magnet. Thanks for coming on the show so I can learn all of this and be excited. You can hear it in my voice.
I honestly, seriously, I really do feel, I look at someone like you, or sorry, your friend, Michelle, and I look at that business and there's so much opportunity because again, going back to this whole thing that like brands, they don't have an infinite amount of places to market, especially in B2B. And all you need to know is that I could count 3 specifically LinkedIn influencer marketing agencies that have started in the last year. So like this is a growing thing. This is going to only, I feel like the sky's the limit for someone like your friend. And I'm excited to like, touch base with you in 6 months and see where you're at, because I think this could add a significant revenue stream to your bottom line. Easy.
That's what I think. And when you think about it, you've done the hard work to build the trust of the audience, to build that community. And all the research that I do in the background to figure out what's working, what's not, what is a good add-on, what things are not worth your time. Like I have spent the best part of 5 years figuring that out for my own business and with my clients. So there's a lot of work there. But Justin, like I truly am inspired by this conversation about what is possible for my friend Michelle's business. And I'll let you know how that goes with her, because I'll be certainly keeping in touch with you. But I wish you all the very best for your book launch. So thank you so much for sharing so generously. And listeners, you have just been given a whole big dose of inspiration on how brand partnerships can work, not only as creators, but for the brand. So if you're a marketing manager that's out there, is this something that you're thinking about in 2025? I would love to know. So drop it in the comments. So until next week, listeners, cheers.